Been a while. How is everybody? So first, let me answer the question that some of you have already been asking me. Am I done with this channel? Am I done making content? The answer is no. I feel like I'm about ready to get back into the content creation game, but before I do that, I feel like I owe you an explanation for the radio silence for the past few months. So as you may remember from my last comments and libations, I've quit my last job, I went into business for myself, and that's been keeping me pretty busy. But really, what kind of screwed me up was that we had lost 3 of our animals in less than a year. So last fall, we lost our 3-legged cancer survivor dog, Haley. She was the first dog my wife and I got right before we got married, and she's one of our OG crew. And we had 2 dogs and 4 cats. Shortly after that, we lost our sickly Claire. She was a calico cat, probably the most personality-filled cat I have ever had. I love cats and dogs, what can I say? When we lost her, it was pretty tough on us, but we knew that both Claire and Haley had been sick for a while. Haley had cancer. We had to amputate one of her arms. They had only given her like 18 months at the time, but she lasted for almost another 7 years. So we knew that every day we had with her was on borrowed time, and we were extremely grateful for it. Claire, she had hyperthyroidism and a number of other challenges. She was on meds for a while and blah, 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 right? Fast forward to May, and we suddenly lost our dog, Ike. Now, Ike was a standard poodle. I never really wanted a poodle. I figured poodles were just little yippity-yap shits, but then I didn't realize standard poodles were badass. Anyway, so Ike was fine, he was fine, and then he wasn't. One day, he just started acting lethargic, didn't want to eat, and then didn't even want to go for a walk, which was unheard of for him. And so we took him into the vet, and it turns out that he apparently had some kind of tumor on his liver that had gone previously undiagnosed that must have ruptured. He was bleeding internally, he was anemic, and long story short, there was just nothing we can do. So we had to say goodbye to him. And I'll be honest, that one kind of broke me. After we lost him, I really just didn't want to do anything. I wanted to bury myself in my work, distract myself in my hobbies, and just really kind of want to turn away from the world. Now, I know that sounds kind of silly, Tom. Come on, they're just cats and dogs, right? Look, if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. I'm not here to try to convince you one way or the other. I happen to be a big softie when it comes to animals, and so that was back in May, and I've tried to stay somewhat active on Instagram and on Patreon. So all whopping 8 of my patrons have heard from me more recently than you have. So check that out if you'd like. But anyway, I'm here to say that I'm back, and I've got some pretty interesting things going on too. So first and foremost, the day before we lost Ike, I picked up a new toy. This is my 2023 BMW R1250 GS Adventure. Now, as you may have surmised, I love driving. I love going cross-country. I love road trips. I've been doing it for a long time. Ever since I was in the Marine Corps, I didn't fly home on leave from California. I drove my busted-ass 91 Jeep Wrangler with no power steering cross-country every time I went on leave. So I drove that thing cross-country probably about 4 or 5 times. And then, of course, recently I've got the Subaru Crosstrek, still have that. Drove that to Colorado, Utah, Upper Peninsula, really enjoyed that. Plan on having more fun with it still. Then I picked up the 2006 Lexus GX470 because, let's face it, there's no replacement for true 4-wheel drive, a transfer case, and 4-low. The CVT on the Subaru does it, but just barely. And I've always loved motorcycle riding, right? So this Beamer is my 7th bike. I've had 2 Hondas, 4 Harleys, and now this thing. And true to form, I had to start modifying it immediately because this is the next vehicle that I plan on taking cross-country on some road trips. As a matter of fact, that trip's going to be coming up here in about 3 weeks in the middle of August if all goes well. So what does that mean for content? I've given that a lot of thought. I'll be honest, while I was in my mourning period, I shot quite a lot of video, but I never really made anything out of it, and I never posted anything out of it. I kept thinking to myself, no one's going to want to watch this, or this really doesn't have much of a story, or I don't think this is going to be interesting to anybody. And only recently did I realize that that's not why I started this channel. I didn't start this channel to please others. I started this channel to share with anyone who would be interested shit that I find interesting. And everything that I shot, I find interesting. But for some reason, I allowed myself to not post it because I had this mental block one way or the other. So that's something I hope to correct. So upcoming content, what can you expect? Well, definitely going to have some Beamer stuff. I've been trying to turn this thing into a pack mule that I can take across country. So I've got some mods to that I plan on sharing. Hell, I even managed to put an HT, ham radio HT on that thing with a Frankenstein push-to-talk button, and it coordinates via Bluetooth to my headset in my helmet. So things like that, modifications to the GS, such as making it a little bit more overland friendly, because even though I plan on driving it on blacktop cross-country, my hope is to actually take it off-road on several trails. I recently learned about backcountry discovery routes, or BDRs, from Butler Maps. These are really cool things that I look forward to sharing with you as well, if you haven't already heard of them. Amateur radio content. I'm not quite done with that yet either. I've got a couple new radios, and on this upcoming trip, I hope to finally pop my Parks on the Air cherry, or POTA. If you know about it, awesome. If you don't, then that's something that you can look forward to as well. I've got a variety of different camping and outdoor gear that I look forward to doing some reviews on and sharing with you. And hell, riding gear. Oh my god. This might be my 7th motorcycle, and I've been riding for over 30 years, but I've never been one to really invest in the right kind of gear or clothing. I would take whatever helmet I could afford, and mostly it was jeans and a leather jacket. So now that I'm going to be going thousands of miles cross country in different weather, possibly getting stuck in rain and all that jazz, I started to finally invest in what's considered good riding gear. And holy shit, is that expensive. So I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on that. Again, one of those go big or go home. I myself was influenced by many moto vloggers, and so yeah. Speaking of moto vlogging, that's a whole new thing that I'm trying to learn. It's one thing to put a camera in front of me and have some decent audio. It's quite another to figure out how to get audio and video from a friggin' moving motorcycle. So there's learning about and sharing that. And, you know, as I started to get excited once again about making content, I was just looking around the shop trying to figure out other things I can do. And, you know, random gizmos, you know, interesting tools that might be interesting. Short episodes on something that I find handy that you might too. So bottom line is, I'm here to say I'm back. At least that's the intent. Part of making this video is for that extra boost in accountability. I'm telling you I'm back, so by gosh, I better come back. So with that said, I'm very much looking forward to continuing down this creative journey and attempting to share with you things that I find interesting and hopefully entertaining and or educating you along the way. If there's any questions that you've got about anything that I've covered or things that are coming up, please leave them in the comments and let me know. I appreciate your patience and continued support. Now that I've explained where I've been for the past few months and where we're going, I'm going to try to get this train back on the rails. So I will talk to you again soon. Take care.